Well, hi there, I'm Russ Moyer. Welcome to the Prophetic Edge. I've been really looking forward to getting to you. I really enjoy our Wednesdays together as we talk about things that are happening in the prophetic, things that are going on prophetically around the world, and also how to activate you in your prophetic gift and call, how it walks out, how it works out, living in the Spirit and living on the prophetic edge. You're going to like today's program. I have with me two wonderful ladies who have a great heart for outreach. And you know, here in the Pensacola area, a couple of years back now, we founded what's called the Center for Excellence, which is an outreach ministry to reach and to impact our community, to do things that are going to actually make a difference, hands-on, heart-to-heart, spirit-to-spirit, actually reaching out and touching people in our community. I have with me the operations director of the Center for Excellence, Katie Barker. And I also have with me today my daughter, who is the founder of Jamie's Mom's House. It's so good to have you ladies with us today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be on.
And, you know, we had an awesome weekend.
We did.
Out there really reaching and touching people this weekend. It's amazing to see the impact that you have and to see the change when people encounter the love of Jesus Christ legitimately in action. Not just hearing the gospel, but to actually see the gospel and the love of Jesus Christ in action. When they encounter somebody who's there without any real purpose of personal gain, but they know and they can see Jesus in action in you. I want to tell you, I really appreciate everything you do and the impact that you're having. Why don't you share with us a little bit, Katie, about the Center for Excellence and the broad view and vision?
All right, so the Center for Excellence is a 501(c) here in Pensacola, Florida, and our mission is to impact our community one life at a time. And it really is about the one. This weekend we fed over 1,000 people at our food drive, our 10,000-pound food drive. Over 309 families were met, and it was absolutely an incredible time of putting some hands to the feet of what's actually going on. We are on the west side of town, over here in the Myrtle Grove community. And if you look at any statistics in the Pensacola area, from the sheriff's department to the ambulance, this is a very high trafficked area by our first responders because of everything we have actually going on this side of town. With that being said, to be able to reach out in one of our poorest communities and our most needy communities is absolutely incredible. So to get out there, then we had the overall big picture of the center is it's kind of an animal that can continue to grow. Right now we have a 4-legged stool, which we have 4 main programs that kind of hold up underneath that umbrella of the center. And each of them I feel like really touches and impacts a different area. And although they can, like with Jamie's Mom's House, with A.W.A.R.E, we kind of funnel in because of where there's addiction, there is human trafficking. The practical skills courses that we offer in the food are also very practical ways that we're helping people not just give a hand up, but to actually, give a hand out, but to give a hand up. And that's one of our biggest desires of our heart is, the government has food programs. The government has, self-help things and different things, but everything is a handout, and it's really meant to keep you where you are, right, so that you're totally and always dependent on the government. Our job is to really give you the skills that you need so that just because your mom lived in this situation, your dad lived in this situation, you don't have to. You can rise above. You can become whatever. This is the American dream, right? Mm-hmm. You can become whatever it is, but sometimes in our communities, the way that we perpetuate, well, mom was like this, so dad's like this, so my grandpa was like this, this is just how we always are. We're in here to bring that hope of if you want something different, if you want a different life, we want to help you get there. And I think that the center does a really great job of that with our 4-part stool.
And you do things and touch people in a way that's very practical, very now in 4 really key areas. I know during the food distribution program on Saturday, many of the people, as you talk to them, these are not people who are the chronic homeless. There are people who 6 months to a year ago, they were breaking even. They work, they're trying to support their family, doing the best they can. They were breaking even. Now the economy has switched and they're 20% underwater. Right. And some of them are not able to buy the same food quantities, and they have to skip something because they're short. Some of them elderly people who are having to skip their meds and everything else just to try to make ends meet. And they've never experienced this before, and here they are now. If we can get them a week's groceries for a family of 3 or 4 or 5, that make all the difference in the world. Maybe they can go out and go get their meds and go get what they need and meet, just at least for that week, just meet their need. Just building a little bridge to where they're at. And to see the other programs that you have that are operating, they are actually what's going on in the country today. These are some of the hot points of what's really happening in our society. Yes. And, when it comes to human trafficking, it comes to this horrible, drug epidemic that's going on, that's facing the nation. It ties into all the other difficult things that are going on, including the immigration issues that we're having and the lawlessness that's going on in our society. So this is something to actually put your hand on. And the practical life skills programs, it's exciting. And you're kind of doing them 2 ways. You're doing some here in-house at our facility here in Fairfield, but now you're also going out to other organizations in the community. Both of you have done an absolutely wonderful job of networking and connecting and partnering together with other grassroots organizations, both in the government and in the private sector. In this weekend, you had a great outing. Why don't you share a little bit about how that all happens?
Well, really, this weekend we got to be a part of Fred Levin Way Fest, which Melisa made a connection. I guess we were on Blab TV with Madrina, rolling with Madrina 2 times last quarter, and Melisa kind of made that connection. And when it came up, Madrina sent it over to us. Hey, we got to be a part of this. And the awesome thing about it, this is their 2nd year of doing it. I would say the statistics haven't come out of how many people, but I know we talked to at least 1,000. And that wasn't even everybody coming through the actual facility. And it was an incredible day. There were over 50 nonprofits out there. We were able to talk and kind of hook up with some of the others. People like A.W.A.R.E were out there. Papantonio had a thing with free books out there. We had A.W.A.R.E House, the Dream Center that we partner with, and we actually met about 10 other organizations that we fill the holes in what they don't offer, and they fill the holes in what we offer. And that's really, as the Center for Excellence, we realize we can't do everything, nor are we called to do everything. Right. We're called to do what God has called us to do, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it well. But other people are called to mind the gaps that we have, and we are minding the gaps that they have. So being able to build that network is really awesome to see how you do meet people, that you do fulfill each other's needs, and now you even have more of a purpose connecting with them and them connecting with you to really get out and touch Pensacola. That's what they want.
And quite honestly, wasn't it nice to see that some of the people that we had heard about came over to say to us, hey, we heard about you too. Yes. How can we connect? Can we have coffee sometime? Let's do something together. It was really great.
And I've been with you on a few outings that you go to. When you were with the Chamber of Commerce, now that's a business organization, right? And then I was with you there at the Shrimp Basket, where some business folks and people were sharing their testimony and how their lives were impacted, where it's right at the point of contact. And it's communicating and cooperating together in unity and harmony with these groups, whether they're business organizations or governments. Now, the funding that we've had up until this point, there's been really no governmental help and funding, and all of our programs are absolutely free. It doesn't cost the people anything. Sure. It's people helping other people. It's people working together, and I love your logo and theme and your heart of be somebody's somebody. And why don't you share a little bit about Jamie's mom's house and how that all got started?
So my name is Melisa, and I am Jamie's mom, and that's how this came to be. My son, it's hard to believe, has been gone 7+ years now. And, we were talking about offset, how often that I share this testimony now, but doesn't matter how many times that you share it, I never want to become numb. I always want to feel what that other human's feeling, because I knew that feeling. And that is where Be Somebody Somebody comes into play. It really has nothing to do with logos, so much more to do with heart. And that, and being there for that person. Whether that person calls you in the middle of the night or is scared, is frightened to know that their child is out on the street, because that's what Jamie's mom's house is. Jamie's mom's house is a house and a place, it's a safe place for people to call or contact you or just to heal together. You know, we have an online group, and unfortunately, but fortunately, we're growing. You know, I always say that when I have to welcome somebody. I'm sorry that you have to be welcomed to this group, but I want to embrace you, right? Because I want you to know that I'm here for you.
And you're meeting the need of the survivors because you remember what it was like with our own personal experience.
That's right. There was nobody that, maybe they could relate to it, but they didn't want to admit that they could relate to it. Because there is still, unfortunately, a stigma, even though that this is a real epidemic and it's growing.
It's hurting everybody in every aspect of society, every home. Something like divorce, it's touching every sphere of our society. It doesn't matter about income, about race, about anything else. This drug epidemic has just been horrible.
And now with the fentanyl, it's exterminating. That's what it's doing. It's killing not just our generation, because that's what I used to say. Oh, well, it's killing the millennials. No, they're overprescribing medication to elderly people and sending them home with Narcan, which is senseless to me. It's senseless. So, I mean, it is exterminating. Yeah.
It's very difficult to watch and see, and the survivors, the people, the families that are involved in it, it ripples throughout the family. It doesn't just hurt the person who's struggling with the addiction itself or with the drug use problem, or it affects everybody.
That's right.
The parents, the children, the neighbors, the employers. It ripples throughout the entire family. And honestly, we don't really know what to do with it as a family. When we were going through it, we did our best. We were involved, and I've been involved in a long time with problems with people that have addictions and programs that help. But you know, when you're right in the middle of all of that going on, you're making these decisions from a place in your heart and difficult problems. You don't have really a lot of governmental help to be able to say, hey, I can go to this place, and they're actually going, they may be able to get you a place or a contact or something like that. And we serve as a resource center as well. But when it comes to dealing with those hard emotional and relational issues, we need each other.
That's right.
There's nobody out there that you can really talk to, but at Jamie's mom's house, it seems you've made so many connections and relationships.
I'm blessed by everyone that has joined into Jamie's mom's house. Their story of them being a survivor, because we not just have in our group parents, but we have sisters and brothers that lost their people. How about friends? All the friends that they all grew up together, there might be only 2 left, right? We also have people that are celebrating recovery, you know, and that's beautiful too. So we celebrate one another.
Absolutely. And you know, when we were going through it, you know, it's the hard issues and family issues that are being tried and relationships that are being tried and tested in that process. It's not just the incident of when an overdose or a death or something happens, but the whole process of what do you do? What do you do next? When do you make the phone call that's necessary? How do you make an intervention? How do you step in and actually help somebody? And if there's nobody that's able to do that, it makes it so hard. But when we were going through it, and then we lost Jamie, I was concerned with losing you, because that during that period of time, you were hurt, and I was hurt. Right. And I wanted to be there for you, but I didn't really understand the dynamics, and I was in a difficult condition myself to be able to deal with all of that.
It was definitely a walking on eggshells time for us as a family. And, you know, I just wrote something about that time in Jamie's mom's house as, we just celebrated another untimely event, which is that semicolon day, which is people that really just didn't want to live after a certain time, but they made the decision, and I had to make a decision to live during that time and to really go on. And by me, because I mean, how many times did I call you or I called other people and I was like, I don't want to live anymore. I had to make that decision, and in doing so, I'm brought to this point now. I would have never guessed. I would have never guessed that I'd be able to, at some point, be somebody.
And your team, you have a great team
Oh, my
around
gosh,
you.
my
I mean, the
teams
whole
are out of this
Center for
world.
Excellence team, the Jamie's
Yes.
Mom's House team here in Florida, up in Pennsylvania.
They're out of this world.
And these things have happened just in the last couple of years without any outside funding or financing
That's
from the
right.
government or help. This has been all grassroots people who actually have a heart, who really
That's
care.
right, yes.
And they're helping support us, helping to feed the hungry,
Yep.
helping us to reach out. At the A.W.A.R.E initiative, we went when you spoke at the governmental place.
Mm-hmm.
We were here when you did the program during the Center for Excellence time that was here. And before you began to speak, and I was thinking about, human trafficking. I knew it was a big problem, and I knew it probably affected a lot of people, but I always thought it was somewhere else.
Yeah.
I thought it was, maybe it was in Europe, maybe it was in the Ukraine, maybe it's people from Africa, maybe people coming in from South America across the border, All of a sudden, you gave us the statistics of how it hits us right here in our city, and you've been able to reach and touch people. So you're not only here in the church, but then I saw you in conjunction with the government and all those government folks that came,
Right.
and you shared an awareness. Some of them had that, but now you all began to connect and put the programs together, and then to see you go out and actually bring it to action, whether it's in a walk for hope, whether it's in a contact with people, whether it's an understanding of how to report a critical situation where human trafficking is going on. It's everywhere around us, and the first step for any of this is awareness.
That's right.
To bring it to people's, because most of the people are going through different things. They go to work, then they come home, they make their dinner, they get personal responsibility, family situations, entertainment that's going on, diversity of things that are happening all around them, and they don't get an opportunity to hear what's really going on in their neighborhood, in their community, in their city. What's going on in the person in the car next door, right? Sitting next to you at the light. I mean, it's happening all around us.
Tell them about the trailer that we passed.
So the A.W.A.R.E initiative is our human trafficking arm, and it is my heart is really to end it in our generation. And you might say, well, Katie, it's like, it's over $150 billion industry. There are people from all different ages and walks of life. The statistics that really started hitting home with me were about kids. Because it's one thing, a lot of times, and this is a stigma, and I wish we would get over it, but you see a prostitute on the street, and your automatic thing is, well, she chose to do that. That might not be true. And that's what I'm learning more along the way. When you're vulnerable, people exploit that vulnerability. And so if you're a female and a pimp sees you, well, I'll feed you, I'll clothe you, I'll give you somewhere to be, you're no longer on the street, you just got to do X, Y, Z. And now you're being trafficked by this pimp to whatever John's. And at the end of the day, was that your choice? You needed to eat. You wanted a place to sleep. Like it's an innate thing. It is. It's a survival mode. Like this is how I can survive. It's not like anybody wakes up one day and is like, I'm going to be a prostitute. Right. But what really hit home was when, I started connecting with other agencies. And we had, we connected with A21 and then A21 Pensacola, the Shepherds group that goes out with Brad Dennis and them, the Sheriff's Department. And we began looking for actual kids here. And we began really, the streets and stuff that I knew were bad or areas of town to look out for. Those are the streets I was driving down, which also happened to be my way to work. And so I'm sitting here driving, you know, our neighborhood and looking for these missing children, which, you know, people are like, oh, well, they're runaways or they're this. Well, the truth of the matter is, it's like Brad said one day, he said, people are running to or they're running from something. And until you can kind of figure out the to and from, they are going to keep running because they're either looking for something or they're looking to get away from something. And one of the cases that kind of broke my heart was a 13-year-old girl. She had a 7-month-old baby missing. We're looking for her on the street. And her idea was it was better to be on the street, you know, exploiting her way to money than it was to be at home. Living with dad. Mom was, you know, no longer in the picture, living with dad in a roach-infested motel that was really awful conditions with 2 small children, and she didn't want to be there anymore. So now she's out on the street, vulnerable to traffickers, being moved from John to John, person to person, and the statistic is alarming for our children. It's like 1 in 6 now are vulnerable for being trafficked. And that's not just kids that are runaways. That is kids down the street. We went to East Hill Pizza, which we love East Hill Pizza. Big shout out to East Hill Pizza. We went and grabbed some pizza the other day, and there are these 2 kids leaving Sacred Heart, the schools right down the road, little Catholic school, parochial school, right there in East Hill neighborhood. They're on a main highway. They're riding their bikes. They come down, they get some drink, they leave, and they're like, oh, this is those 2 guys. They do that every day. Well, my immediate thought was, if this is the kids' routine and they do it every day, they're on a main highway, these kids are vulnerable to being taken. And, you know, people, you know, you watch movies like Taken and you watch shows like that, and like you said, you think it's so far away, but the truth of the matter is, it's 1 in 6 here in the United States. The vulnerable population is really 7 to 15 are our children's age groups to be watching out for. And the number one way kids are exploited, they're not normally taken by the guy in the white van. You know, back in the day, it was like, don't talk to strangers, stay away from vans, don't go look at the man's puppy. But that's really not the way that kids are being exploited these days. They're being exploited online. And it's on devices and on gaming systems and on social media platforms. Like 68% of people, of children exploited last year were exploited on Facebook. The number one platform that's exploiting kids right now is YouTube. And you don't think about it. You see all these safeguards and these different things, but the number one way that kids are being exploited for sexual purposes right now is by YouTube. And it's crazy to think, but the parents don't really understand 100% all the devices and the safeguards, and kids are like, oh, I just want to have as many followers. It pulls into that vulnerability that children have of, I just want to be liked, I just want to have a friend, I just want to.
And you can be any age you say that you are on there. So it could be a 56-year-old man acting like he's a 13-year-old child, right?
And that's literally how it is. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go meet my 13-year-old friend at the mall. Mom dropped me off, I'm meeting Susie. Mom drops you off, well, it's not Susie, it's Bubba. And again, he's 56 years old, he puts you in the back of his truck, and now we have a missing child, right? We've learned so much with the organizations and the groups that we've been a part of. Our main goal for A.W.A.R.E is really to get it what it looks like in Pensacola. You know, I want to empower the people in Pensacola to not be afraid to call the human trafficking hotline number. I don't want people to be afraid to call the crisis number. I want people to feel like they're equipped. You know, when I was in athletic training, they said the number one reason why people didn't respond to choking or someone who needed CPR was they were afraid of what if they did something wrong, or what if something happened. And we've talked about this even with somebody ODing. Well, I'm doing drugs myself, I don't want to call. If I call, then, well, ultimately, the longer that person is without Narcan, the less likely they're getting up. The same thing with the longer someone is in sex trafficking or being extorted, the less likely they are to not commit suicide. And that's why we're seeing such a spike in our children these days. Our young people, they were like 3 at Pace High School, like not even like within this year. There were several, the police was given, one of the things we're talking about at Escambia High School, there were several attempts and different things. They're giving out these statistics, and the suicide rate has climbed since COVID, like has climbed dramatically. And with that, it's because a lot of these kids, you know, you would think my child would never do it. But everybody else is doing it.
It's in every high school.
Yes.
It's in every family, in every community.
Every youth group.
And the first, the first step is awareness.
Yes.
The next step is education.
Yes.
Educating both the young people and the parents of how to react, because many of us don't really have a full understanding of how to monitor what's going on.
Right.
You know, and we don't want to violate that young person's privacy and things like that when they're growing up. I mean, hey, you guys know what it was like, and you know I butted in sometimes. And a concerned parent does.
That's right.
But knowing how to do that and how to do that appropriately is very important.
Yes.
And when to do that. And what are some of the signs that say, hey, now's the time for me to actually intervene and say something now before something gets so bad that we have an outbreak or something that goes wrong. So what we're doing right now is actually legitimately having an impact, but it's happening all over the country. And it's time for people to get involved and to wake up to the reality of what's actually going on in our communities across this country. And really make a difference, really be somebody. Sometimes you're not the person who's on the front line. You know, you may not have a call or an interest or the time to go out on a Saturday morning and unload the trucks and put the boxes and be there with the people and have the contact. You may not be the one that answers the phone today out there at 11 o'clock at night when they call you. Because, by the way, most of the life crises don't happen from 9 to 5.
That's right.
You know, and so somebody has to be on duty in their heart just about all the time. And you know, it may not be someone that's watching us today, but they can help and they can partner together with us and actually be there and be somebody, be part of something that's actually positive and constructive in our society. So it's an important moment in America, it's an important moment for us here in Pensacola, but it's in every single community. I want you to know, we're gonna talk a little more about it, and you know, but right now we're gathering partners and friends and working together at the grassroots level. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate everything that you're doing. And you know, of course, in Canada, in ministry 20 years ago, we started the A.W.A.R.E community in Richmond and the Kingsway. And we have, just like the success stories here and the testimonies that I heard here, we have them over and over again in Canada. They're feeding hundreds of people every week, plus practical life skills programs, trying to bring back those people that have fallen through the cracks of our society. And that's the church and the love of Jesus Christ legitimately in action.
Yes.
You know, it's fine to talk about things, but it's a whole lot different when you're out there and you're at that place where the rubber meets the road. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate both of you, and I see the future for our impact to continue to increase. People from outside the area now are contacting us, gathering together, see what happened, because what's happened here is very supernatural. You know, I mean, this thing started quickly and things just began to happen, relationships came together. But you know, it's you stepping out and God meeting you and meeting the people's needs that are out there, all working together. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today on the Prophetic Edge. You know, this was birthed in the Spirit, and the Spirit of God is with us when we're out there. It's that life-changing presence of the Lord Jesus Christ on the scene, in action. When these folks are meeting folks that are in need and broken, they're not there alone. That's right. The Lord's with us, and he stands there, and he brings people to that place of change. Lets them know the love that he has for them through these people. Come on and join us however you can. There's a lot of ways to give, a lot of ways to be involved. If you'd like more information, please contact the number on the screen, and you have ways to get a hold of us. Thank you for joining us, and thank you guys for being with us today. You have a wonderful day now.